If we keep going in chapter 2, and we're still in the letter to Pergamon, we get verse 17. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. To the one who conquers, I will give some of the hidden manna, and I will give him a white stone with a new name written on the stone that no one knows except the one who receives it. Now, there are three metaphors essentially here for eternal life in Revelation 2:17, and they all have Old Testament antecedents. So let's just break verse 17 down. The first one, the hidden manna. Of course, manna was the food of angels. There's a reference to that effect in Psalm 78:25 and the Septuagint at 77:25. Why is it called the food of angels? Well, because it's food from heaven, and heaven is where the angels are. The food, that they eat. This must be what angels eat because the food's dropping from heaven. It's Exodus 16, the story of the manna. You can also find references to manna because it's food from heaven. That this is the food that will be served at the ultimate meal with God, the marriage supper of the Lamb, which is the gathering. That the event, the gathering toward which all the previous biblical meals with God move, or that they are related to. There are lots of meals with God, in the Old Testament. Genesis 18 is sort of an obvious one, but you've got, Exodus 24, Moses and Nadab and Abihu and Aaron, they go up set with the elders, they see the God of Israel, and they have a meal. Okay, there are a number of these kinds of events that foreshadow the ultimate meal with the Lord, which is the marriage supper of the Lamb, the day of the Lord meal, when everything is consummated, and as I've mentioned before, where Leviathan is served, for dinner. Leviathan is consumed, chaos is consumed, it is no more. So there's a lot of imagery here. John 6, 31 through 35. Let's just read that because I think there's a tie-in here with manna, obviously. This is the bread of life passage. Our fathers ate the manna in the wilderness, as it is written, he gave them bread from heaven to eat. Jesus said to them, truly, truly, I say to you, it was not Moses who gave you the bread from heaven, but my Father gives you the true bread from heaven. For the bread of God is he who comes down from heaven. That would be me, Jesus, and gives life to the world. They said to him, Sir, give us this bread always. And then Jesus in verse 35, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me shall not hunger, and whoever believes in me shall never thirst. And then so on and so forth. So the bread of life passage, again, food from heaven, this whole idea, and of course associated with Jesus. And that association in turn makes us think of the marriage supper of the Lamb. All these ideas are related. They're all connected. And so this reference to hidden manna, he who has an ear, Revelation 2:17, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. To the one who conquers, the one who overcomes, I will give some of the hidden manna. In other words, you're going to be at the table. You're going to be at the table. Now, Beale writes this of this passage in his massive New International Greek Text Commentary on Revelation. He writes, the promise of hidden manna is a metaphorical portrayal of end-time fellowship and identification with Christ, which will be consummated at the marriage supper of the Lamb, in which those refusing to participate in pagan feasts, remember the idolatry problem? Those refusing to participate in pagan feasts, they will be rewarded with that fellowship, with that supper. Beale continues, manna was also a portrayal of eschatological expectation in Jewish writings. Then he cites a bunch of rabbinic texts. This was a promise sometimes addressed to those not worshiping idols. Again, if you refuse what's going on with idolatry, and you'll get hidden manna. Again, it was a familiar thought. Again, in the Second Temple period, we're not going to eat the food served to idols. We're not going to participate in these rituals because we want to have a seat at the table of the Lord, the Messiah at the last day. Some have proposed, Beale continues, that the hiddenness is linked to the Jewish tradition that Jeremiah hid the manna in the ark before the temple was destroyed, and that it would be revealed again when the Messiah came. That's 2 Maccabees 2:4-7. We've done an episode a long time ago, it seems now, on the Ark of the Covenant, what happened. We get into some of these Jeremiah, legends and whatnot. I did an episode of this on the Fringe Pop too. But again, Beale comments that, there were some that thought, well, Jeremiah hid it. It's going to come out, when the Messiah, returns, so on and so forth. Beale adds another thought. This is not incompatible, this whole set of ideas. It's not incompatible with the understanding of the hiddenness described above. So, maybe the ark, the presence of God, it sort of goes, these ideas sort of go together. The manna given to Israel in the wilderness, he says, was also said to have been hidden in the high heavens from the beginning of creation. You ask, well, where is that? That's actually the Targum. One of the, Targum is an Aramaic translation. So an Aramaic translation of the Old Testament, specifically Exodus 16, 4 through 15. Targum Pseudo-Jonathan actually says this about the manna. Manna given to Israel in the wilderness was also said to have been hidden in the high heavens from the beginning of creation, and was ultimately to prosper Israel at the end of days. It's Targum Neophiti for Exodus 8:16. Now, again, these are late text. I thought I'd throw that in there because they're kind of interesting. It tells you that there's certain ideas in the Jewish community about manna, but these texts are much later than John's era. But nevertheless, they're interesting.